Hi, welcome to the Busy Corner. This is a remake of Lesson 14 because I've changed my rod knitting kits, and also I wanted to go over again the different sizes I use so that when you go to work a pattern that I have online, then you'll know what size you need. So, first of all, let's get this kit business out of the way. I've decided to sell these kits in two versions. The one is going to be just rods, or your basic kit. And with that kit, you're going to get the 1/2-inch rod stand, 2 sets of uprights so you can vary the height of the stand when you knit. You will get your 1/2-inch rod with the attached elbow, and you will get 4 sizes of cover pipes. And all these are pre-drilled so that when you put your cover pipe on, you can slip your pin in. And you will get 2 sets of cotter pins. One is the the metal ones they're connected with the yarn that I use normally. And I should have got these out actually. It's not imperative, but I like to do this that way you don't lose them. They don't, if they drop off. And then the other set is the type you see me use in lessons 17 and 18 that are it's just a stick with a bead on it. These are really easy to make at home. If you have any, these are bamboo skewers, which you use in your kitchen, and just lop them off and glue a bead on if you're making this at home. So that is the basic kit. And you'll get a brief instruction kit which just shows you how to put the legs on. This base unit that you see that's screwed together, that will be pre-assembled. And because these aren't machine made, I make them myself in the basement. So if you took that apart, you wouldn't get it back together to line up right. So, just leave this in one piece and then your legs will come out. And that's all the instruction kit is, because all my instructions for knitting are online, and it will come in a upcycled fabric sack. So that's the basic rod kit, and I'm going to sell it in 2 lengths, the 12-inch length and the 18-inch length. And all these are the same. Your biggest size, I cannot find this pipe in the thin-walled pipe, so this is also Schedule 40 pipe. It wouldn't need to be if you're making this at home, but I haven't been able to find 1.5-inch pipe in a thinner wall. But that makes it a little tricky to cut if you're doing these thinner wall. I finally bought a little table saw, little portable table saw, so that I can cut these without smashing them with a ratchety thing. So that's a lot easier on my thumbs too. So it's a little easier for me to make these. When you order these, I live in Ohio, so depending on where you're at, the shipping can run anywhere between $8 to $18.85. If I'm shipping this big set, I can put it in a priority mailbox that is for these board games, but it's almost $19. I think I can get 2 sets in here. So order it with a friend, and if you're going to spend that much on shipping, I would say get the Deluxe set. So the basic set is just the rods, and if you order the Deluxe set, either in the 12-inch length or the 18-inch length, I'm also going to include the 3 new sizes of rods. And they'll either be 12-inch or 18, depending on the size you want. And all my prices will be in the description of this video. But you will get the 3 sizes. And I use the small dowel rod. This is an 18-inch long one. And if you're making this at home, just buy a 36-inch dowel rod and cut it in half. This is a 3/8-inch oak dowel. And you'll be able to get it nice and smooth, and it'll stay straight. So get the oak. Or you can use a polystyrene tubing, but you'll have to put something in there to keep it straight. You can see mine's still a little crooked because I used a little tiny wood dowel inside. It doesn't matter. It could be square. You could knit on something square, really, and that would be easier to tie down to your table if you're doing this at home, without a stand. But anyway, so the Deluxe set has this, and then the Pecs Tubing one, and we're going to go over these sizes in a minute, and also the new. This is that 1/2-inch hot cold water pipe. So that's what you get in the kit. So like I say, if you're going to order with a friend, and I think I can get everything in one box. So the biggest question I've had lately is, what length do I need? Is 12 inches going to be enough, like these, or do I need an 18-inch set like this? And that's difficult to answer, especially if you're new to knitting and you're used to crocheting. You know that all the work is done on the piece with a hook. So you don't have to worry about equipment. You have one tool, and that's the crochet hook that brings your yarn in and out, or whatever you're working with, fabric strips or whatnot. So knitting, that's different because the work stays on the apparatus, whatever you're using. Some people, the longer it gets, then they start using what again, if you're new to knitting, you've maybe never seen these, but this is what a circular needle looks like. There's little short areas where the stitches are worked, and then this flexible piece holds all your knitting. So it's a little bit lighter to hold in your lap, because the work can drape. If you're working an afghan or something, it can drape in your lap. But some of these are up to 48 inches long, and it allows you to work a piece in the round also. They're not always used that way. Sometimes they're just used so that you can put on a whole lot of stitches. So if you are working with very bulky yarn, and you've probably seen videos of people using big PVC knitting needles, and they're holding them in their hands, and they're using that thick, handmade white roving. You might need something 4 or 5 feet long. Well, I certainly can't ship that, and you're better off, going to Lowe's and buying it. So all I can say about this is, if you remember lesson 17 and 18 where I made the throws, that was enough for my king-size bed, but it's very open. Now, it's plenty warm, just like that, but the denser the fabric you're knitting, then the more those stitches are going to pile up. For instance, this is a 12-inch size rod that's on my stand right now, and this is a cowl I'm working, and I'm making it super duper wide with 5 strands of, this is just over 2 feet across when I stretch it out. I have 50 stitches on here, 5 strands of sock yarn, and I'm going to say the 5 together is about a number 4. Maybe a little bit more, 4 to 5 with that 5 strands of sock yarn. So, and this is 50 stitches I got on here, and I would have room for plenty more. But as I'm adding stitches on, I'm going to have to keep pushing them back a little bit firmer. So everything I've shown you so far, I don't even have a set of these for myself. The only thing I have in long ones right now are the dowel rods and these, just because I thought I would need them, but I haven't really needed that length yet. But there's some ponchos and things I'd like to do, and I know I'm going to need some longer rods. So my feeling is, if you're going to do a lot of throws, and you're going to knit them more densely, for instance, if you wanted to do more things like this cable that I showed you, and again, this is a panel cable, and on purpose, I'm showing you things that'll fit on your 12-inch rods, because I don't want you to be inconvenienced. This is a panel afghan. You're going to sew it together. You remember I just did this last video. But if you wanted to make big afghans and didn't want to sew them together, heck, you might want your rods 3 or 4 feet, because that's about as long as a cable is. And if you're going to do that, make sure, and you're using this style for your stand, make sure that you make it as I did. And when you work your afghan, you might want to turn your stand so that it's at the end of a long table, just like this, and your rods are all the way out to here, and your work is going to be supported at the other end of the table. And you will definitely want some shorter uprights, because you notice with the angle on my pipe stand, the farther out I go, the higher it gets. But I did this on purpose so these wouldn't inadvertently slip off. Whoop, and I just did that, see? But that was, caught my finger on. So I hope that gives you some ideas about, to me, I think, well, bigger's better, but it's not very portable. And I like to work my scarves on this little table you usually see me do, and my tray only pulls out so far. And you want to make sure that the work, as it comes off the pipe and it gets longer and longer, is supported by a table or a shelf. Otherwise, those stitches are going to get stretched out and they'll pull right out of your hand when you're taking them off the pipe. So that's the only inconvenience about the longer pipes. So what I often suggest to people is, if you don't think you're going to be doing many afghans, what you could do is get the 12-inch set. Then you could always go back to Lowe's and buy big pieces of pipe and make yourself some longer ones. You know, these don't have to be all the way. I could easily support, you know, a long pipe on my short pipe. because this is Schedule 40 pipe. It's very thick and heavy. I've noticed that Lowe's has changed some of the pre-cut pipe they have. So they have this, the 1.5 inch pipe in a 2-foot piece pre-cut. Everything else, all your other cover pipes and the Schedule 40 pipe is 10 feet. Although this Schedule 40 might be in a 5. But all these are 10-foot pieces. So that's a lot of pipe to deal with. But it's inexpensive. But you could maybe share it with a friend. So these other pipes for your smaller pieces, and again we're going to go over quickly how to make these, but these come in shorter lengths. 3 foot for your dowel. This you could get this in a 5 foot. Same thing with this Pecs Tubing. So you don't have so much to wrangle with when you leave the store. Otherwise you're going to have it stick it out of your car unless you bring your saw with you. So that's for that portion. Now let's go over the sizes one more time. I know we talked about that, but this will just, that way we're all on the same page. Now, if you were looking at a knitting needle, so let's bring this tray up here a moment and look at our pipes and look at our needles. If I want to know what size my needle is, they usually write it on there. You'll see a US size, in this case US 50, 25 millimeters. And what they mean is that distance in diameter across the pipe. So that's kind of hard to measure. I can't really put, a tape measure across my diameter. So if you have something at home that's pointy that you're working with, the easiest way to measure your circumference is to take a piece of paper. If you try to use a tape measure, it's going to not really come out right because you always have that metallic end. Just wrap something around your pipe or around your square thing. That'll help you too. And just make a mark where they cross. Then measure that distance, divide by 3.14, and you'll get your diameter. And that will be an easier way for you to calibrate. The US numbers don't really mean anything. They're not related to any real measurement. But the millimeters are, and that's the size they use in Europe and Canada. So, anywho, you will need, if you order the Deluxe set, by the way, you get all 8 sizes then. You get your 1/2 inch plus the 4 cover pipes plus these 3 sizes. And again, if you're making these at home, the smallest one that I think we're going to be able to work with is this. This is a 3/8 inch dowel rod or a 3/8 inch outside diameter polystyrene. And, that's some work getting yarn through there if it's fuzzy or whatnot, because it's not a very big hole. I think that's when people invented knitting needles, when their material got finer and they needed to make it tighter. So they had to use knitting needles. Otherwise, I suspect people knitted on sticks first, just like we're doing here. For fish net or whatever they did. I'm sure it was something more utilitarian than we think of it today. But anyway, that's just a theory, and I have no way of proving that. But, so, this 3/8 inch dowel rod then, where's my little list? Here we go. This is equivalent to US 15 needle, and that is this, and they come in a bunch of different, this one's 14 inches long. So if you were knitting on knitting needles, you'd find when you got to the store, they're generally 9 inches long, sometimes they're 12 inches, 14 inches, and that's when, at that point, they move to something like a circular needle, if they're going to put on more stitches than that. So, that's that size. And when I talk about this, I'll call it the 3/8 inch dowel rod, but I will tell you what the equivalent is, that it's a US 15 or 10 millimeter. Okay, so that's that size. Then your next size is your Pecs Tubing. And this is sold by 3/8 inch inside diameter. But that's not the actual outside. And the actual outside diameter of this is very close to a US 17 needle or 12 millimeter. Now, there's a lot of variation in these, I noticed. This one says it's 12.75. But that's not what it measures out at. I did it with calipers. So, but no, they'll be close. And then the next size is your 1/2 inch. This is that CPVC pipe, they call it. It's for hot and cold water. And you'll notice it's rather thick-walled. It's 1 aisle over from the PVC pipe if you're in Lowe's. This is equivalent to a US 19 needle or 15 millimeter needle. And that's this one. Then your 1/2 inch Schedule 40 pipe. And this is what I make the stand out of, and your knitting rod with the attached elbow is made out of. This is equivalent to a US 35, which is 19 millimeters. And it's pretty close. Some of these are about 1 millimeter off. I think this is slightly bigger than this one. But what really matters is your circumference, and that's why I showed you how to measure that. So, you know, when you're making the stitch, that's what determines how big that stitch size is. And next, that 3/4 inch pipe, the thin-walled 200 PSI pipe. It's sold as 3/4 inch, but the actual diameter is equivalent to a US 50 or 25 millimeters. And it's pretty close. A little bit bigger, I think. I think it was 1 millimeter bigger. Then the next that you can buy in the store, the last one would be, well, you buy all these in the store, but I mean equivalent knitting needles, is the one that they sell as a 1 inch 200 PSI pipe. And the actual diameter is 35 millimeters, and it is equivalent to a US 70. Now, I don't have any of those. Those are the things they call speed stick. Not everybody sells them. They're quite large. Big, well, you can see. And that would be a little uncomfortable in your hand. I had some trouble in my thumb, so I would definitely not like that. The other 2 sizes that I put in my kits are the ones that are sold as 1 1/4 inch pipe, and it's again the thin wall pipe, and what they sell is 1 1/2 inch pipe, and the actual size of this is closer to 1 7/8 inch across. And again, that's what really matters if we're going to compare apples to apples here. So these two do not have an equivalency in knitting patterns, but they're commonly used, like I say, when you see people using that big thick roving, they're using some of these larger sizes. This size is just under the size of your wrist. You can buy bigger pipe. They make 2 and 3 inch pipe. But I think that at that point you might as well use your arm and be done with it. So I hope that clears up some questions. One other thing, if you wanted longer pipes, I can get them. Normally I ship in this box. It's a 17 inch tall box. And I can get both sizes in there. But if you live in California, it's going to be much cheaper for me to put it in a priority mailbox. And this one is 23.68 inches long inside. And I can make you a set that long if you want them, that would fit in this. But again, it's not quite as portable, and you need more table space. You need something to be underneath the end. So, but anyway, I hope this helps clear it up. Happy knitting. Thanks for watching.